Dear students, welcome to Swayam Shiksha. So today we'll try to analyze one topic which was asked in the recent essay paper. Okay, so the essay paper was a little different from the previous years in the sense that he was trying to ask more of philosophical type of essays. That's number one. And number two is he wants to check our thought process, the way we think and way we approach such abstract topics. Okay, so how do we make abstract essays more specific? So one video which I've already done, it was a live class, is already uploaded on our YouTube channel. So students can definitely take the benefit of watching that video where we have analyzed in detail how do we go ahead with philosophical essays. We have discussed few topics, it was a live session, it will help you to understand where I've tried to construct or break down previous year's philosophical essays. So what we will do today is basically we'll go through one philosophical essay which was recently asked, and this essay topic is basically says philosophy of wantlessness is utopian, okay, while materialism is a chimera. So this is the essay topic. Now for such topics, first thing what we need to do is we have to break down the keywords. Okay, so here the key word is, one is wantlessness, two utopian, three materialism, four chimera. So once we understand what the words stand for, then automatically writing the essay becomes easy for us. Okay, so wantlessness, to be very specific, can be seen as not having desire. Okay, and utopian is something like an ideal standard which is difficult to reach. Ideal standard which is difficult to reach. Materialism is something like desire for material or desire for physical things in the world. Okay, so it can be seen as we having desire or desire for material objects. Is a chimera. Okay, so chimera is something like an imaginary animal, or you can say it's kind of an imaginary thing. So materialism is also imaginary. You can't codify materialism also. This is the meaning basically. It's kind of Maya. Maya is something like you can't codify it exactly what it is. Okay, so this is what is the essay topic. So you can see this essay topic from this angle, like wantlessness is just an ideal which is difficult to reach, while materialism is a kind of Maya or an imaginary entity. So this is the essay topic if I have to break down the essay topic. Or you can say desirelessness or lack of having desire is only an ideal which is difficult to reach, or having desire for material objects is only an illusion kind of thing. Okay, so you can view this essay topic from that particular angle also. Now for such essay topics, what we can do is, it looks a little difficult and etc etc. So how do we do it? So one is, what we can understand here is, this is basically we can view this mainly from the Eastern philosophy, and this, the second part, we can view it from the West. Okay, so how do I go about? Now can I bring in, you can think of bringing in Darwin's natural selection. Okay, or we can also bring in Epicurus, who is also called as wine and woman philosopher, who is talking about mainly material. Or we can also think of certain philosophies which have laid the foundation for civilizations or even countries. For example, Adam Smith philosophy or Adam Smith construct of wealth of nation, it has laid the foundation or the philosophy of, or it laid the political philosophy of US altogether. Or we can talk about Karl Marx philosophy laying the foundation of countries like Soviet, China, etc. So which can be measured, That means whatever we are discussing on the right hand side can be quantified, can be measured physically, Okay. Now, since it can be measured, is it real progress or is it something real? And on the left hand side, since we cannot measure, okay, for example, I can talk about Zen philosophy of the East, or I can think of something like the Hindu philosophy or the Indian philosophy, whether it is Hindu philosophy, etc. So, where we talk about, or we can think of Buddha, who talks about desire is the root cause of misery. Okay, so can I bring in a combination of both the philosophies and frame my introduction? Now you can think, yes, these materialistic philosophies which had a direct impact on civilizations, like for example, Adam Smith laying the foundation of political philosophy of US, or Karl Marx foundation laying the foundation of countries like China or Russia or USSR. And at the same time, this philosophy on the East has laid the foundation where it has given people like Gandhi to the world, or Mahatma, or you have people like Mother Teresa, or we can talk about Nelson Mandela. Okay, so you've given such people whom the society can never imagine that such people would have ever walked on this earth. Now, such philosophies laid the foundation of their value system, and such great people who had an impact on the world. You cannot physically measure their impact in terms of material, but definitely as a foundation for different societies or world as such, their contribution is also immense when you make a comparison between these foundations of the Western philosophies. So I can bring up a combination of both in my introduction, where I talk about the foundations of materialist philosophies. I can talk about Adam Smith and Karl Marx laying the foundation. At the same time, the philosophies of wantlessness has given Buddha, or has given people like Gandhi or Mother Teresa or Nelson Mandela to the world. And you can't say this is less inferior to the materialist philosophies, or you can't say materialist philosophies are inferior to these philosophies. So I'll start up my introduction where I try to bring in both the things together. This is one way of bringing in a thought process for this essay. Another thought process for this essay can be, we all know the foundation of human birth itself is desire. And our existence itself cannot be sustained without desire. I need a loaf of bread to survive. And without bread, I cannot survive. Now, what is this bread? Bread itself is material. And those entities which had desire to survive and which have struggled hard for existence are those entities or species which survived and evolved. So, desire itself is the root foundation for human evolution. Desire itself is a root foundation. For example, Friedrich Nietzsche talks about superhuman being coming. Yes, Superman is coming, superhuman is coming. Now, who is this superhuman? Now, those days when for billions of years there was crisis, there was a situation where survival itself was difficult, and there were some monkeys on the trees which were struggling, fighting, etc., to survive. And there were some monkeys which have gone down into the cave to escape from the struggle. Now, after billions of years, when these monkeys came out, they were surprised to see these monkeys being different in the form of evolution. Okay, that means those entities which have struggled continuously, they had the desire to survive. This desire to survive laid the foundation of human evolution itself. And these entities became apes and then to sapiens and our human format. But those monkeys which ran away into the caves, which moved out of billions of years after remained as monkeys. That means the foundation of this foundation itself is laid. That means our survival or evolution itself is laid on the foundation of desire. Okay, so this is one aspect. So here we can also talk about the origin of wantlessness can be seen from those areas where the philosophies of Hinduism or Hindu philosophy or Zen philosophies emerged, where in the Gangetic plain, where survival was not difficult, where food was available or fertile lands were there, and therefore people started looking inside. People started looking towards or looking inside rather than outside. When security is ensured, then people started looking inside. When survival itself was difficult, when security itself was a very difficult thing, then your immediate desire is to survive. Your immediate desire used to survive. When your immediate desire used to survive, you will never think of wantlessness. You will never think of something beyond material. So your concept of thinking beyond material in Hindu religion or in Gangetic plains or Zen philosophy has originated from those areas where basic survival was not difficult. So when you're in forest, when we were struggling to survive, then nobody talks about basically nothingness or wantlessness. So this is how how the origin of wantlessness and the origin of material philosophies of Greece or civilizations in Greece. You can bring in a combination of both, and you can get, forward, or you can write your introduction. So this is another way of starting an introduction for this essay. This is a line of thought basically. I am trying to give you a line of thought where you can compare both. Okay, so then comes taking the essay forward. So you will write a paragraph where you will talk about how wantlessness is utopian and how materialism is a chimera. That means what? Wantlessness is also difficult ideal. Materialism is also an illusion. So in this essay, we are going to discover how wantlessness is utopian as well as materialism is an illusion. Or the other way around, if I reverse the essay, materialism is utopian and wantlessness is a chimera. So wantlessness is a chimera means wantlessness is also an illusion. Materialism is an utopian concept, means it's an ideal because there's no end to it. So either ways, both reflect the same thing. Either ways, if I change the words also, both reflect the same thing. That means what I'm trying to explain here is there is no end to materialism. How is materialism an illusion? Because the desire to have something ends once the desire is satisfied. You want to conquer Alexander wanted to conquer the world. Okay, but the same Alexander, when he becomes old, okay, so the desire, the same desire will not exist. I have a desire to become a rich man. I have a desire to earn $1 billion. Now, once you earn $1 billion, your desire is over and you have a new desire in mind. That means this desire or materialism is also an illusion because it is not permanent. Once that is over, there is a new desire that comes in place. So there is no end to it, and therefore it's an illusion. This is one way of looking at it. Okay, and materialism and wantlessness is something like a utopian concept because having no wants absolutely is also difficult, and here there is a differentiating factor between a need and a want. Want helps you to survive. So nature gives us enough. For example, I bring in Mahatma here. So Gandhiji says there are enough resources always there for people's need, but not for their greed. So wants are endless. And wantlessness is also not possible. Here, wantlessness in the concept of basic needs not being satisfied. So here I bring in principles of Mahatma where Gandhiji clearly specifies that there are enough resources available for people's need, but not for their greed. So in the nature itself, there are enough resources. Okay, so for satisfying people's needs, but not for their greed. So is our desire for satisfying needs, or is our desire becoming greed, is the logic. Is our desire becoming greed, or is our desire to satisfy basic needs? So are we stopping at the needs level, or is our desire going to the want extent. So is our desire turning out to become greed? It becomes an illusion. If our desire stops at need, it is okay. So this is something which I try to bring in at the end or in the conclusion. Now the same topic, now when I start exploring it from different perspectives, for example, when I try to explore this essay from environmental perspective, or when I try to explore this essay from the growth perspective. So, the ambitions of higher development and growth has laid the foundations. For example, industrial revolution itself is a revolution where has laid the foundation of materialism, and it has made countries prosper. Okay, and there are certain countries that have definitely became rich, and their standard of life improved, their economic growth and development prospered. Definitely no doubt about it. But at the same time, if it has become too obsessed with the desire for growth, when the desire for growth or desire for materialism has become too obsessed, then we started spoiling the environment. We started spoiling the forests, we started cutting down forests, you don't have free air or pure air to breathe or clean drinking water to drink. That means this growth which you targeted, this material growth which we targeted, when it turned out to become greed, that it had a negative impact in the sense that the environment or the basic resources or nature got destroyed. The balance itself got destroyed. So this is how you try to bring in that this materialism, when it is crossing limits, when its desire is turning out to become greed, that it has a negative impact on environment. And now you have climate change summits protecting the environment. You're talking about UNFCCC or climate change, Paris Convention. All that is basically to protect or changing your context to balance growth with something like environmental protection. Okay, so I think I'm making sense here, in the sense you have to think from both the dimension. Now the same aspect, when you talk about the political aspect, when I try to bring in the same thing when you talk about political aspect. So political aspect, when you talk about, when we talk about the value system of the political parties is becoming too materialistic. Winning becomes more important, or ends become more important than means. So means to the end doesn't matter, ends in itself will become more important. So that is the reason you want to win at any cost. Is it through rigging? Okay. Is it through promising those things which you can never achieve? For example, when we talk about criminalization of politics, when we talk about mergers in political parties, when we talk about voting pattern taking money, and how politics runs today is purely materialistic in nature. Okay, so that means your aspirations for materialism made the political parties exist. But when it becomes too much, then the very foundation of government, so government started becoming a Frankenstein monster which is eating away its own creator. It's eating away its own creator. People have given power to government. It's so that the government will protect the people and give them peaceful life. The same aspect, because of excessive materialism from the people's context as well as the political party's context, has made government a Frankenstein monster which is eating away its own creator. Now, this is the negative side of it, of excessive materialism when it comes into politics, etc. The same applies to society. The change in the value systems of the society. So, there is a change in the value system in the society. What is happening? Now, government is making us, it should always, government policies should be in such a way that it should be difficult for people to do bad and it should be easy for people to do good. Rather, the situation is that it is becoming difficult to do good and it is becoming easy to do bad. For example, taking civil services as example, a corrupt official is enjoying life because he has external motivation, but there are people like Ashok Kemka who are working with his internal motivation. Lack of external material motivation is transferred for more than 50 times. This is a clear indication that The laws and rules in a society should be in such a way that it should be easier for people to do something that is good rather than doing something that is bad. So our good Samaritan principles, where somebody, if there is an accident that happens, earlier people were not interested in taking care or going and helping because of police rules and regulation. So the good Samaritan concept is based on this logic. That means our rules in the society itself should be in such a way that it should help people to do good rather than doing bad. So now I'm talking about when excessive materialism is there in the society, it leads to erosion of basic value system. Okay, so this is what we will talk about. Society started existing because of the concept of material. You wanted to fulfill your needs. Individual cannot fulfill his needs alone, and therefore you created society. The institutions like marriage started existing because to fulfill your basic requirements of basic living. Okay, helping each other, etc. This is how societies existed. But the same societies, when materialism started crossing a particular limit, now what has happened? Basic erosion of value system, basic erosion of systems in place. Now that is how you will take it, and this is what is illusion basically. So there is no end to materialism. There is no end to materialism context because there is no end to desires. And when there is no end to desire, obviously there is nothing like ultimate happiness. There's always betterment when it comes to material. And that is also originating factor for erosion of value systems in the society. Today, that means this has laid the foundation of self-interest. And when this origin of self-interest crosses a particular limit, the same thing can be applied in business. Capitalism is okay, but what about cronyism? Capitalism is okay, what about inequalities? What about poor? What about profit motive at the cost of many? What about forest laws earlier, where the rights of tribals have been taken away? Now, this is how you can look at this essay from different dimension when we talk about materialism. Then comes wantlessness is utopian here. Hindu philosophy or Indian traditions as such, when you talk about lack of desirelessness, has made people lazy. Enjoying the subsidies of government, and you start thinking of as if like you are a great scholar or you are a person without any wants. You are a burden on the society, not contributing to the GDP of the country. From time immemorial, when we were talking about the concept of karma or when we were talking about aspects of wantlessness, okay, we did not progress as the Western world progress. When we talk about innovations, when we talk about vaccines, when we talk about scientific developments, okay, so when we talk about all these, the root cause itself is desire or materialism, no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. So countries which started talking about wantlessness have looked at it from an angle where it made them more lazy, and the progress was far, far below the developed countries which believed in pure materialism. So it has made us more lazy, and that's one of the negative sides which we can talk about in the first part, which is wantlessness is utopian. Then how do we balance both? This is an ideal. Okay, this cannot be reached. This is an illusion. Now, how do I balance both is what would be the next part of the essay. Now, those societies which have balanced both are the societies where you have the best people, the happiest people living. So, I'll talk about countries like Scandinavian countries where you have a balance of both. Though they look as capitalist from the top, but at the same time, when you go to their fundamentals of operation, of primary education, health, which is free of cost, this clearly shows that there is a balance of both, and those societies are the best societies where you have a balance of wantlessness and materialism. So then comes, how do I balance both is the next aspect. Okay, so what is that? What is the change that has to be brought in from the family system, from the societal system, from the education system, or from the government policies? So how do you bring in a balance between both of them is what I take forward in this essay, and then come up with a conclusion where it should be a balance of both, because both are not completely achievable. and therefore a balance is needed for a healthy society or healthy globe to exist. This is how we move forward. This is the line of thought. This is the line of thought for this particular essay, and I hope I made you think as far as this essay is concerned. In the subsequent discussions, we'll also discuss in detail few more essays and also this essay again in detail. But I want to my students to think and start writing. Then we can discuss on more points. Thank you.